Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we wish you a very good afternoon and welcome to the best damn birthday party you've ever seen in the state of Connecticut. We are celebrating this weekend the joint birthdays of Pratt & Whitney at the age of 60 and still going strong, and the sovereign state of Connecticut at 350 years. And what a show we've got for you today. We have brought the very finest and air show pilots, performers from all around the countryside. And we know you're going to enjoy what you watch here this afternoon.
The airplane fell on the old guy. There you go, Jim. Drag him out. There you go. Oh, boy. All right. Now he's holding it like that. He wants to do an inverted flat spin. I want to see if he's positioning himself for it right now. There he goes. Power's coming back. That's the airplane slowed up. There you go. Listen to the engine. flight is together. You're watching Living History, flown by members of the Kalamazoo Aviation History Museum, Canadian Warplane Heritage, and with the cooperation of the United States Navy, and proudly presented by Pratt & Whitney. These aircraft fly today as a tribute to the brave Americans and Canadians, not only who maintained and flew them, but also those who designed and built them before you. The Grumman, Pratt & Whitney, Cat Flight, celebrating 60 years of Pratt & Whitney excellence.
Well, after I'd introduced each of the Grumman, Pratt & Whitney Cats, and the formation was flying towards us to the Navy hymn, I could feel the emotion from the people there. It was so strong, it was like something you could reach out and touch. And when you look at that moment and you think that of the hundreds of thousands of people that were there watching the show, that thousands of them probably worked on the round engines that powered the World War II Korean War era aircraft, and that thousands of others of them probably worked on the TF-30 P-412As that are powering that beautiful Grumman Tomcat. We're talking not only of the history of Pratt & Whitney, talking of the history of Grumman, and that's 45 or so years of the history of naval aviation, all before you. It was a beautiful moment. Truly beautiful, and it was a moment of personal satisfaction for me. I'd been working on the idea of an air show since 1983, or the feasibility study of the site, and here it was, 1985, and this was the culmination of everything, of all the hard work that everybody at Pratt & Whitney had put into it. I had the easy part, see, I just had to produce the flying show, but the folks at Pratt & Whitney within the company that spent the better part of a year actually putting together the total show, that the static displays and everything that goes along with the air show. They wanted something special for their 60th anniversary. And I think it was at the moment the Cat Flight was going over that I said, well, they got it. I mean, here we are, all standing on the reviewing platform and watching this, the fulfillment of all our expectations for a great show. And there were a lot of teary-eyed people in that audience. And I'm standing up on this reviewing stance, everybody can see me, and I got tears rolling down my cheeks, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Looking back at the whole lineup of air show performances, I think we can say proudly that there were no filler acts. Everybody was a headliner, everybody was an opener, everybody was a closer, everybody was a feature. And we had our surprises. I think probably the biggest surprise was the change in the weather between Saturday and Sunday. Saturday couldn't have been any nicer. Perfect air show weather. Blue skies, light winds, clear. Sunday, right on the deck. Even with the weather being down on Sunday, we could still fly at 3:30 in the afternoon. The weather cleared enough. And having all that moisture in the air gave us a little added benefit. We flew the F-14A Tomcat demo, and the extra moisture in the air made the demo that much more spectacular. Watching that big, heavy, fast airplane squeezing the moisture out of the air definitely adds to the goosebump factor.
Come by off the wings in the 68-degree position, go to full afterburner again, and then execute a 360-degree turn, which G levels between 6 and 7 Gs for the next pass. The next pass simulates the high-speed performance of the airplane, particularly when we're fighting the airplane at altitude, how the airplane turns with the wings aft. wing's aft position is a delta wing configuration, so the airplane is very efficient in the supersonic regime. One of the more impressive maneuvers in the demonstration is the airplane's maneuverability in the moderate speed regime. 350 to 400 knots is where we normally fight the airplane. When we're out doing normal ACM and dogfighting, we don't fly supersonic all the time. In fact, rather infrequently do we go supersonic. Most of the time we're in the 400 knot regime where the airplane maneuvers the best. So when I come in on that pass, I'm going approximately 350 to 360 knots. Just as I get to the crowd, I select the Zone 5 again in the afterburners, full power, and then commence a very tight high G turn. When I have the wings forward, the turn radius of the airplane is at least half of what it was with the wings aft, because the airplane is very maneuverable with a straight wing airplane in wings forward. And we come screaming around the corner on that one. G loadings are very high, 6 to 7 sustained all the way around. And from the pilot standpoint, it's the same as the other one. I'm just looking for the crowd in the show line, and the RO is watching the airspeeds and the altitude.
But Saturday, what a beautiful day. Couldn't have been any better for an air show. We had the act scheduled to start at 12:30, and people were coming in the gate at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, you can't just have them standing around for 4.5 hours. So we were ready for them. The hangar exhibit was the answer to an aviation buff's dream. 60 years of Pratt & Whitney engines, and that goes back to the Wasp and the R2800 right up to what we're turning out in the plant today, the F100, the PW4000, and everything in between. It was truly an historic display. And then we had the Wright brothers' personal collection of photographs. This is a pictorial record of the beginning of powered flight. We had an engine that Orville and Wilbur actually built on display, one that I thought was a model or something that somebody turned out as a replica, but I was assured that this was an engine that Orville and Wilbur had actually worked on. Outside, we had one of the largest static displays that I've ever seen at an air show in North America. You talk about aviation history, the aviation buffs, whatever era they were interested in, whatever aspect of aviation they were interested in, we had something for them. There were over 75 Pratt & Whitney powered aircraft flown in just for the static display. As a matter of fact, one of the airplanes that was on the deck was flown in from Las Vegas, Nevada. It was a Ford Trimotor, and this is powered by 3 Junior Wasps. And I understand they were the original engines. Wonder how many rebuilds they've been through. But they're still cooking on an airplane that's, well, more than 55 years old. And these static displays were available for people to go up and look at. Some of the airplanes were opened up. The commercial airliners, the C-141, you could walk right through it. And they did, all day. Then when you got tired of walking around, you could sit down and rest your feet in a theater they put together specially for the air show and watch the latest Thunderbirds film. Thunderbirds flying their F-16 Fighting Falcons. At 12:30 sharp, Bill Fitzsimmons stepped off the wing of the Stearman biplane at 4,000 feet, free fell for about 1,500 feet, and then opened his canopy, which has the American flag emblazoned inside the canopy. And under canopy, he flies down to the ground, and when he's in position, we have the Air Force Band play the national anthem. Now this says, friends, this is the start of something big. Now, Ron Shelley's been circling Bill Fitzsimmons as he's flying the flag down to the ground, and since Ron's already up in his Stearman, we have him do a warm-up to actually open the show and show us what some of these maneuvers are going to look like.
Our theme, history. We come flying out of the pages of American aviation history. We're not really inventing anything new out there. We might throw in a few new wrinkles, but most everything has been done before by the old-timers, and it was the old-timers, the barnstormers, that started the air show. The barnstormers are mustered-out military pilots from World War I who bought a lot of the surplus aircraft that were to be had for a song, and not wanting to go back to whatever they were doing before the war and having experienced the exhilaration of flight, these people started touring the country giving or selling rides, airplane rides. And there were so many of them that after a time people became blasé about seeing an airplane out in the farmer's field, and these chaps had to team up and put on stunts to attract folks out to sell them rides, and that was the birth of the air show.
When people think of air shows, they think of biplanes and noise and smoke and color, and Ron Shelley's biplane with that big 450 horsepower Pratt & Whitney engine really fills the bill. It's not a snappy airplane, it's a big, lumbering, former military trainer, but it does everything you want at the beginning of an air show to do. The main thing is attract attention, and it sure does that.
If you look out to the right side, John Milberg is flying a pit special, the airplane that's called the Rolls-Royce of aerobatic airplanes. John Milberg, the J-58 program manager down in West Palm Beach. He says he's getting windburn here.
John Milberg was the act immediately following Ron Shelley for a very good reason. I wanted, after Ron's act, which tends to be slow and I used the term lumbering before, and it really is big, heavy biplane. I wanted something that would go like a bat and just snap through the maneuvers. John Milberg is a competition pilot. One of the things he does best are very precise, fast maneuvers. So that's our comparison from our opening act to our second act.
Well, aerobatics to me provides a tremendous sense of satisfaction of doing something difficult extremely well. In flying competition or air shows or practice for that matter, it gets the adrenaline flowing at a pretty high rate, and it's total concentration to doing one thing. There's flying the airplane through an intricate path through the sky under very precise conditions. There's absolutely no time to think of other things, to daydream. You're in a situation of total concentration, flying the airplane, performing the maneuvers in sequence with zero error.
No, not going to do it yet. There was a snap on the way up and rotating it around to the left. He's just a positioning maneuver, getting ready for his torque. Turning around, the airplane continues to turn around to the left side, and then back down on the propeller. That's the tail slide. There's that whip, and the nose comes down. Look at all that smoke. Back in the power, let the airplane fly again. Come up in the power once again. And
first pass of the afternoon. The Six of Diamonds get their name from the T-6 aircraft they fly and their diamond signature formation.
The Six of Diamonds are former military pilots. Two of them are airline pilots, two of them are businessmen. They all have great experience in flying formation. Their act is a Warbirds Act, which brings in not only the Warbirds, but formation flying, and also some very good aerobatic flying. The reason we have them where we did in the show was that we wanted something that is going to immediately say military flying, because let's face it, Pratt & Whitney's been known to power military airplanes for a long time, and this is where we figured it was a good place to remind everybody.
From the left, our Six of Diamonds come back into the demonstration area as they're going to do something you usually see in the movies. This is the beginning of the fighter pass. This is what you sometimes hear them call a peel off. That is where they will ripple break from that and come back across a field in a strafing run.
The speed continues to build up, and there they go. Looking across the ground. And so carefully you can hear the machine gun fire coming from the number 2 airplane. Hey, number 3 is pretty happy. He's got to look at that all the way around. Number 2, number 1, everybody's real happy. Look at that. Victory rolls as they continue.
Watch now from the far right side as Captain Bill Dodds performs the roll around the formation. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to the wind whistle through the wings on this thing. You talk about silent flight. I do want you to hear how beautiful it is. Listen. Listen to the wind.
Dennis Galati's act was different from any other act we had in the air show. Absolutely quiet. We talk about the beauty of silent flight. And when you take an LS-4 sailplane up with Dennis Galati at the controls and let him just let that airplane wheel through the air and roll and loop and soar, that's the romance of flight. And that's why we put it where we did.
My glider is really designed for racing. And I don't try to do the things that you'll see in the power planes. What I'm trying to do in the routine is to make it graceful and beautiful and something that matches the music and is aesthetically pleasing as opposed to aerobatically correct or technically correct. Probably from a danger point of view, the only dangerous part of the routine is the loops that are done low to the ground. So you have to be a little careful when you're coming down the back side of a loop heading towards the ground, and this goes for any plane that you'll see doing that maneuver. There's a point well above the ground at which you have to be in the right position or you will not be able to get through the bottom. And the fuselage wants to keep going to the ground and only the wings are holding it up, so the wings want to bend, and so you see a very dramatic bend in the glider.
The super slow roll from Rockwell International in Los Angeles, California. The incomparable Robert A. Bob Hoover flying the P-51D Mustang.
Bob Hoover is the pilot's pilot. And I'm glad that Jim Driscoll always announces Bob Hoover's show, because then I can sit there and enjoy what Bob's doing without having to worry about saying something about it.
Bob, of course, a veteran of 59 combat missions during World War II, having been shot down on his 59th mission, escorting 2 wounded wingmen home. As Bob and these wounded wingmen were jumped, he engaged the enemy. His wounded wingman got home, but Bob, as you know the story goes, was shot down over the Mediterranean. Of course, after he was shot down, he was a prisoner of war for about 15 months.
Warplanes International is a historical act in that their act is packaged to help people understand what air power was like when the United States became involved in World War II in the Pacific. The Wildcat was the first Navy mono-wing fighter, and the 2 Japanese airplanes were similar to those that led the attack on Pearl Harbor. So this is a little compact piece of history that many people may not fully understand, but now they can see where we were back in 1941.
Ladies and gentlemen, flying the FM-2, the leader of Warplanes International, Dick Foote. Flying the 0, Tom Rudder, and flying the Kate is Bill Simmons. Warplanes International.
Most of the people I've talked to in the past have always had dreams of flying in one form or another. And when you get up there and you jump out of that plane or you just step off the strut, it's the complete feeling of flying. There's nothing around you, and it's totally awesome. It's like picturing yourself as a bird, and your hands are your wings and your feet are your rudders, and you just, when it's time to pull, your adrenaline's going because you know at second stage, it's kind of like a rocket. You have your first stage of flying through the air and doing your maneuvers, and the second stage, when that parachute opens, it's another stage and another whole experience.
Well, most people think that they have this impression that leaving the plane is like a roller coaster ride, that it's tough on the stomach, there's a lot of acceleration, but it's very smooth. And as you get used to it, it just feels like you're diving into water, or that you're floating. And after about 10 seconds, you reach terminal velocity, and everyone else is falling about the same speed you are, so there's nothing to really judge your speed from. You have your